to inner freedom, seal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Door of my heart, open wide I keep for thee. Will thou come, will thou come, just for once come to me. Will thou come, will thou come, just for once come to me. Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord? Night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day, night and day, night and day, I look for thee, night and day, door of my heart. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great gurus, preceptors of all religions and all ages, I humbly bow to you all. Thank you for raising the vibration of this gathering. Thank you for connecting us to God. Om Shanti, Shanti. Hi, Jamuna, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you guys too.
So, which page were we on? Hi, Akansha.
Hello, Urmiji, how are you?
I'm good. Meenakshi. Which page? Yeah, Sujata. 241. Does anybody know?
240, I think.
Yes.
That's where I left my
Meenakshi,
pen.
I'm sure Meenakshi is always reliable. Maybe you did not come, yeah, Sujata. So let's start from 240 with this sloka 516. In those, however, who have banished ignorance by wisdom, the true self shines forth like an effulgent sun. So the true self is when we are self-realized. It's not the ego self. So those who have the wisdom, they have banished ignorance. That is, they have banished the ego or feeling or the understanding that I am the ego, I am the body. So in them, the sun, the self shines forth like an effulgent sun. So the more we progress, on the spiritual path, you will see that an inner light starts to shine from your face. You'll be able to, the more we meditate, I have noticed shifts in people's faces over the years. It actually, the light starts to glow from inside, and the look in your eyes also changes. So their thoughts immersed in that one, their souls united with it, their entire devotion and allegiance absorbed in it, their being purged of the poison of delusion by the antidote of wisdom, such liberated souls achieve the state of no return. So what does achieve the state of no return means? Basically, why do we return? Because we have karmas which we need to release. We can only expiate or release karmas in the 3D world. because the karma has to release through the body, the physical body. So as long as we have karma left, we keep coming back again and again for more lifetimes. So the state of no return means that now you have finished all your karmas. Now actually you don't need to return at all. You can always remain merged with source unless you choose, like the masters here, to come back and help others. But that is a complete free will. I mean, you don't have to come. You can always choose to remain merged in source. Such souls view with equal gaze a pious priest, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and an outcast. Because they know even if it's a dog and an elephant or a cow or whatever, we are progressing on towards our God self. We begin as crystals, then we become plants, then we become animals. These are all levels of consciousness which we have all gone through. Then we become the lower kind of human being, like primitive, nomadic, or almost, people who are like animals still. And then we become the higher kind of human. And then once we do spiritual, we actually want to reach the higher state, then we become Jivan Muktas, or freed by living. And after that, we become Param Muktas, who are people who are like the masters. So therefore, an enlightened soul will view a pious priest, a cow, an elephant, a dog, or an outcast as the same, because all of it is just that one soul, which is God, that one energy, of which we are all a part of. Even on this earthly plane of existence, the relativities, birth, death, pleasure, pain, are overcome by one who views all even-mindedly. Those who can do so are verily enthroned in the unblemished, never distorted spirit. So for these people, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha, so all those ups and downs, black and white, good and bad, have totally gone. They are in complete union with spirit, infinite. Such sages, established in the one supreme being and unwavering of discrimination, are neither jubilant when they confront pleasant experiences nor depressed when they confront painful ones. So they have developed their power of discrimination by waking up the spiritual eye. So when the spiritual eye is awake, you know the truth. And so you can see clearly beyond the veil is reality. And what we are sitting in is delusion. This is the world of relativity. So this is the 3D world is bound by time. It's linear time, now bound by space. So all these things don't exist outside. Over there, there is, I mean, you don't have physical body, you don't have height, weight, up, down, pain, pleasure, past, present, future. Actually, these are just delusions created so that we can, in the play of opposites, is when we learn our lessons. So unwavering discrimination. So they never for even a moment forget that this is the world of delusion. So therefore, they are neither happy when something great happens, so-called great, nor sad when something seems to be a disaster. Seems to is the key word. All of it is seems to, right? Feeling no attraction to the sensory world, whether subtle or gross, the yogi lives in the ever-new joy of his own being. United to spirit, he attains perfection in absolute bliss. So within us, when we are become very highly qualified yogis, when we are self-realized, We are one with spirit. We understand the true nature of spirit, and that is Satchidananda. And so it is the ever new joy, as Master used to say. It's not a boring thing at all. It is just wave and wave and wave upon joy. Right? And where does the joy comes from? You will see that we feel joyful when our spirit can expand. The state of contraction in anything will take away joy. So we feel expansive. So imagine an expansiveness which keeps expanding. There is no end to it. So therefore, there is no end to the joy. So spirituality means the more and more our consciousness expands. And then the more it expands and the more it merges with the source, we are no longer bound by the ego. The main quality of the ego is fear, is separation from source. O son, right. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, because sense pleasures spring from outside the self, they all have a beginning and an end and bring only misery. No one of any understanding would seek happiness through them, through sense pleasures. So the whole thing is that whatever is real is always unchanging and eternal. Whatever is false has a beginning and an end. So that is the way we can understand what is false and what is real. What changes is not spirit, is not God. What ends is not God. So anything which has a beginning and an end is actually Maya and brings only misery. No one of any understanding would seek happiness through something so transient. Okay. He is truly a yogi who, while living on earth and up to the last moment of his earth life, can master every impulse of desire and antipathy. He alone among mortals is a happy human being. So impulse of desire is these likes and dislikes, our judgment about things that are going on is what creates our misery or our joy. It is how we judge things. But when you have reached a very high state of evolution, you stop judging. And the moment you stop judging, the mind becomes quiet. When the mind becomes quiet, the drama ceases, the stories we tell, in our head, that ceases. Once the story ceases, once the drama ceases, that is when we can understand the true nature of God, which is us only. But right now we are separated, right? So he is truly a yogi who can master every impulse of desire and antipathy. Desire means extreme love, antipathy means I don't like it. And once we get out of this, then only can we be happy. So as yesterday, Jayaji gave a very, very interesting talk. He was saying the only desire, because without desire also we cannot progress, the only desire worth having is the desire to connect to God. So he says, bring up your desires to the highest that they can be. If it is inevitable that we will have desires, because we are in the 3D plane, to raise it to a desire for God. Okay, so keep the highest desire then. And once, of course, that will also go at one point, right? And so we become totally neutral, which is actually the nature of source. Only one who possesses inner bliss, that is Satchidananda, Only one who possesses inner bliss, who is firmly centered in the inner self and is illumined by the inner light, dependent on nothing outside the self for his understanding, attains complete liberation both while living and after death. So where do miseries come from? When we want something, desires create miseries. But when we are complete in ourselves and we don't need anything or anybody, that completeness gives you complete liberation from this 3D realm. His doubts and hesitations, the yogi.
Urmi, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bit of contradiction there, no? I mean, it's good to also have desires because it can keep moving
That's
you
what I'm
up.
saying, that
Yeah.
while we are, there is a thing called a positive ego.
Yeah.
Because without the positive
Yeah,
ego,
exactly.
without a desire for God, that's why yesterday Jayaji was saying, if we have to have desires, why not make that desire for the highest? Desire to connect with God, keep that as your biggest desire, and all
Yeah, but
others will anyway pale in comparison.
yeah, no, I get that. My point is also, I mean, I understand that point. The other issue is that when you say desire for the highest, it is also connecting with your things which give you that expansiveness also, right? Like for example, today I went for a 3-hour bike ride. I mean, I immediately felt I've been feeling expansive ever since. But no, the point I'm making is that is also the highest whatever self. So
Absolutely.
that's what
So
I'm trying to, or if I'm say reading a book and that gives me joy, that's also the same, right?
So always go for whatever expands the consciousness,
Expand, yeah.
right? And at one point, you will see that the only desire worth having is the desire for God. At one point, these are all stages in
Yeah.
evolution, right? Because in any case, we have signed up to have desires. Without desire, there will be no experience. And without experience, there will be no learning. So in any case, we are going to have desires. It's mandatory at a certain point in our evolutionary growth. It is only when we are self-realized that we will not have any desires. So as we are moving towards self-realization, it is a very good idea to anyway cultivate a desire for the Supreme. We'll reach there willy-nilly
Yeah,
every
but
soul.
Urmi, we are all human beings. As you said, we've signed up for this. So the spiritual teachings, whether it's a Bhagavad Gita or is it, from say the center, should then focus on how we in our present state can get that expansiveness. I mean, if you go straight to God, I mean, who is there? How many people are
Yeah.
there in that
So
state?
here actually in this part of the Gita, Arjun is talking about a yogi and a yogi's qualities. And he's telling Arjuna, be thou a yogi. He is talking about what happens to ordinary mortals also through the Gita. It is just that at this point, he's talking about the imperishable soul. So he's talking about what is the qualities of a yogi, not of ordinary people. Elsewhere, he talks about the qualities of ordinary people and what happens to them too.
Hmm. Thanks.
So I suppose I suppose what the entire Gita or any spiritual discourse which one reads gives us a perspective about uh, what is the right way to achieve this, what is an expansive consciousness and what is the right way to achieve it,
Yeah.
by giving us a context of when you do it what happens, when you don't do it what happens, so that when the teaching comes that you are supposed to desire a state of expansive consciousness, it becomes easier for us to understand what it is and how to get there.
Correct.
Right.
Right. And throughout the Gita also, he's constantly explaining the yogic techniques. He's actually explaining the techniques of meditation, that please do this. This is what will lead you to that expansive state of consciousness. Renunciates who are without desire or anger. See, in these passages, he is simply talking about renunciates and yogis, trying to explain to Arjuna what is that thing that Arjuna has to move towards. Renunciates who are without desire or anger, controlled in mind and self-realized, are inwardly free, whether living in this world or merged in the infinite. What does inwardly free mean? Because if you're self-realized, you are, there is zero drama. There is no desire, there is no anger, there is no like, there is no dislike. So the ego is not present at all in an evolved yogi. And so there is no drama. And so you are free. You will notice that when we get attached to things or to people or to concepts or to ideas, that is when the drama begins. Either it's happening well for you or it's not happening. And then the story in the head, I am unhappy or I'm very happy, that comes from that attachment that we have. We have attachment to results. We have expectations of people. Then we want more and more things. And suppose those people and those things are not available or they are not behaving the way we want them to, it's all ego. That is when, the inner freedom goes. Now I'm caught in that story. I can't walk away. I'm wanting something. Now, the moment there is a need, the moment there is an attachment, that's when the freedom will go. A person who can remain detached is the freest and happiest being on earth, because they are always connected to source. And when you are connected to source, you know already, because your intuition is very well developed, you know already that I am everything and I have everything. So there's no point desiring everything and getting all, antsy, I didn't get this and this didn't happen. So that expansive consciousness understands why we are coming here lifetime upon lifetime. They are not just looking at one life. They are looking at the entire experience of being in the 3D world. And so they are not even attached to their own bodies. They can float in different past lives, come back, go to the future, because everything is actually in the now. There is no linear time beyond 3D. The Muni, one for whom liberation is the sole purpose of life. After hundreds and thousands of lifetimes, we realize that, okay, now this is getting really boring and really meaningless. The one thing to realize is to realize my true self. And so the Muni, one for whom liberation is the sole purpose of life, controls his senses, mind, and intellect, removing himself from contact with them by neutralizing the currents of prana and apana in the spine, which manifests outwardly as inhalation and exhalation in the nostrils. So here, Krishna has come to actually telling us about the meditative process. So how, if your sole purpose is to liberate yourself, that I'm done, I've had enough, then you will do these spiritual practices and neutralize the currents of prana and apana in the spine, which is the inhalation and exhalation in the nostrils. So what does Yogananda say? Breathlessness is deathlessness. That is what neutralizing means. When you stop breathing in meditation, that gap which we keep saying, focus on the gap between breaths. That is when true connection to source happen. When you're not doing this up and down, the breath will naturally cease in meditation. When the mind is quiet, the heart does not have to keep pumping oxygen to clear carbon dioxide, right? So the mind becomes calm and the breathing becomes unnecessary. It is then that we can connect to source. He fixes his gaze in the forehead at a point midway between the two eyebrows, thereby converting the dual currents of physical vision into the single omniscient spiritual eye. Such a one attains complete emancipation. So when, like Jesus said, when thine eye be single, thy body will be filled with light. So when you stop looking at the world through two eyes, through duality, and you perceive truth through that one eye, that is when your body will be full of light. Every cell will be illumined. Yoga is well known. Yoga, as is well known, is not so much a philosophy as a science, which offers definite practical techniques for raising man's consciousness inwardly through the spine and uniting its myriad directional tendencies or samskaras with one's own highest potential in the self. So yoga is a science because actually it is dealing with the material body. What does science do? Science is not a philosophy. It's not something in the head. Science actually experiments and science deals with the material world. So yoga is a science because it is dealing with the body and it is going through the body, within our body itself. We have the apparatus to become enlightened. So yoga, like science, will give you practical techniques which can be applied in the material world. They are not just abstract philosophical concepts. So they will give you techniques which will enable you to realize those philosophical concepts. So yoga is a science and gives the way to raise our consciousness, where we release all our directional tendencies, all our vasanas, samskaras, all the stuff which we are carrying from the past, all our desires which we keep having. Yoga helps to neutralize that. A fascinating aspect of this process is that one does not need to reach out for oneness with infinity. He has only to attain a level of perfect refinement in himself in order to attain that level of consciousness where separation ceases to exist. So it's not as if infinity or God is something which is separate from us. We don't have to reach out to a separate thing. It is already in us. We have to peel away the layers and we have to merge with infinity. It is not separate. It is infinity is already within us. We just need to release all those layers that we have accrued over lifetimes. So we have to attain a level of perfect refinement in ourselves in order to attain that level of consciousness where separation ceases to exist. So you become one with source. It is, as Swami Sri Yukteswar explained in his book, The Holy Science, a matter of removing the koshas or sheaths which limit and enclose us in individuality. So what are these various koshas or sheaths? So in yogic science, they say there are 5 sheaths. One is the Annamaya kosha, which is the material physical body, rice, Anna. One is the Pranamaya kosha, which is the emotional body, right? Or the energy body. One is the Manomaya kosha, which is the mental body. One is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the higher mind. And then is the Anandamaya Kosha, which is the bliss, the Satchidananda. So these are 5 sheets that we have to progressively let go of. We have to, some people are totally physical beings. They understand nothing apart from eating and procreating and, sleeping, just the sense pleasures. Some people are only in, apart from the Annamaya Kosha, they are in the Pranamaya Kosha, lot of emotions, ups and downs, mess going on, drama happening. Some are in the Manomaya Kosha, more use of the rational mind rather than the emotions, right? Some are in the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the higher mind, higher concepts, higher intellectual stuff. And beyond that, Vijnanamaya Kosha is actually the intuition, the power of knowing. Beyond that, then is the Anandamaya Kosha. Once you have reached there, then you are merged with bliss or the infinite. So in the Western world also, they say, what do they say? Annamaya Kosha is the physical body. Energy body is the Pranamaya Kosha, which has the emotions and the energies. Then Manomaya Kosha, the mental body. And then we say there is a body of free will, which is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. There are 2 definitions in the Western way of looking at it: body of free will and body of knowing, which is combined in the Vijnanamaya Kosha in the Indian tradition. What is the body of free will? Once you have crossed the mental body, you become an autonomous human being. You are no longer reacting from the past, right? So you have that discrimination. You are not, just because I used to be treated like this in my childhood, and these are the things that trigger me into anger or sense of abandonment. After the Manomaya Kosha, you have become an autonomous being. You now take your decisions based on the now, not based on your past experiences. So that is the body of free will. Now you are a conscious individual. You, every time you act, you know the consequences of that action, and you are willing to take responsibility for the consequences of that action. You don't say, something came at me and I did, and I don't know why this happens to me. You know exactly why things happen to you, because you are a conscious individual. You are taking very, very conscious steps towards evolution. And then comes the body. After the body of free will comes the body of knowing, which is the intuition, which has opened and which knows that I am God, which knows that I am the one who's creating my life. So that is the body of knowing. And then comes the body of I am. So body of I am is that, okay, now I realize, I'm self-realized, I am God. So these koshas or sheets limit us, and because limit us in the world of ego. So if I am only conscious of my physical body or my emotional body, and I don't use my rational mind, or I don't use my higher mind to understand concepts, then I will be a person who is contracted, who is filled with fear, who feels, oh my God, I need to hold on to all my money. What will happen to me in my old age? Or, I won't have enough to eat. So all these fears are there. When these fears go away, whatever you need will anyway be supplied. But that kind of consciousness comes with the body of free will or the body of knowing, where you know that you are creating your universe, and it depends on what is the vibration, thought vibration you are sending out into the world, that will get you what it gets you, right? So slowly we start to let go of fear. The more and more we release the sheets, the more and more the ego starts to become very, very refined, and the fear goes and faith takes its place. So it is basically a journey from fear to faith, right? Freed not only from the ego, but from the last causal vapor of individual consciousness, there is nothing left to be attained. We are that infinite one already. So this is the self-realization that I am God. I always was God. I just didn't know I was asleep. Eternally, we have been with God, in God, and immersed in nothing but God. We have merely been enclosed as if by thin veils at first, then by shawls, then by heavy curtains, and finally by the heavy solid armor of egotism, and have taken as our point of departure in everything that we are, do, see, and think. This little point of consciousness in infinite space, our little self. We think we are this little, but actually we are the infinite space. These two vastly different perceptions of reality, on the one hand, personal, confined, and even petty, and on the other hand, impersonal, unlimited, omnipresent, cannot be spanned intellectually. We have to reach the body of knowing before we even begin to understand what that feels like, or what that is, that expanded consciousness. It cannot be spanned intellectually. Yogananda described divine attainment as the liberating shock of omnipresence. So it is, you have to have that kind of an openness or that kind of a caliber to allow that amount of energy to come into you. Otherwise, what happens sometimes, we hear that people go crazy and all. When the Kundalini awakens prematurely, then your body is not prepared to take that energy. So your entire system can go for a complete toss. And that is why the yogic practices, we always said that don't try to do it on your own. Please go very slow and learn from a teacher, go gradually, be connected to an organization which can tell you what to do, just in case your Kundalini goes haywire. I had a client once who came. This guy had gone to the Osho ashram or something. And of course, he didn't learn it step by step. And he started meditating 8 hours a day like a crazy person. He was not initiated into anything. And meditating 8 hours a day, his entire insides were burnt out, completely gone. So he had come for healing and all that. So it is dangerous. And so they say that just go very, very slowly. So the liberating shock of omnipresence can throw you for a toss if you are not ready, right? Only by mental attunement with the consciousness of an already liberated guru can one make that leap across the yawning abyss which separates the ego from infinity. So what did Swami Kriyananda say? That you need a guru if you want to find God. You do need a Satguru who is a via media, who will lead you to God. He is the transformer. Remember, the guru is the transformer who brings down the energy so that you are able to absorb it step by step. So the guru gives a path, the guru gives a process. And if we are energetically tuned to a powerful line of masters, the danger of going haywire and all that, because their protection energetically is always there. So that danger is not there. So that's why they say, don't start practicing anything just listening off the YouTube. Now, which is why these practices were used to be kept secret. Now with the information boom, everything is out there. But how you do it, whether you are overdoing it, whether, it can lead to many dangers. So like this boy which used to come, and I've said this story before. There was one girl who came to learn Reiki or something. So I saw her energy and I said, please do not try to open your upper chakras, because unless the lower chakras are stable enough, you won't be able to handle it. So suddenly she went off. I gave her a very gradual practice. She calls me and she says, I've got such a headache. I've got such a headache. I'm going crazy and all that. I said, how come? Because I have given you something which, would slowly balance out your energies. So why is this happening? So I went into meditation and suddenly I hear a loud voice in my head telling me she is trying to open her third eye and she is not ready. So I said, wow. And I actually saw a shivling and this bright light like this. So I called her and said, why, what are you doing? Are you trying to open your third eye? Then she's sheepishly saying that I saw an exercise on YouTube and I'm doing it. I said, stop at once. Your body is not ready for the liberating shock of omnipresence. So these processes are very powerful. You just don't, without purifying yourself, without attuning yourself to a guru, you start doing some strange practice. It can just blow your circuits. So only by mental attunement with the consciousness of an already liberated guru can one make that leap. It's a leap across the yawning abyss which separates the ego from infinity. So many people ask on this path that, why don't we at all mention the crown chakra? We stop here, right? So in Kriya Yoga, we say that once you have cleared here, this is the leap. This is the abyss leap to infinity. This will happen automatically. So don't bother about trying to open the crown chakra. You focus here. And once you are ready, the guru will guide you in the opening of the 1,000-petal lotus. It will happen naturally. That is the abyss. Because there is no neural pathway which can take you there. In the physical body, there is no neural. Everywhere there is an energy pathway, nadi. The energy, where the prana flows, there is none here. It is an abyss. So it is kind of a leap of faith when your 1,000-petal lotus will open. Okay. So that guru is the one that can help you to make that leap. Because by the time you have really opened your third eye, you are connected energetically with the guru, then, you can take that leap. The attunement one seeks should not be with the guru's personality so much as with that level of his consciousness, which is beyond personality, one with the infinite. So it's a blessing actually for us that our guru is not in the physical body, because he is, and we can connect to him energetically. Because if the guru is in a physical body, a lot of mess happens. Then you start looking at him as a person. One day, oh, the guru didn't smile at me, so I am sad. So all manner of ridiculous ego stuff happens. And then there's vying for the guru's favor. And today, how is he looking and how is his mood? All that is immaterial. We are trying to connect to the guru's consciousness, which is connected to the infinite, not to his physical body. So in a way, we have an advantage that we connect right from the beginning. We are not connecting to a physical person. So that's what I say, that people who are still in the Kali Yuga, consciousness-wise, would choose a guru they can physically see and touch. People whose consciousness is in the Dwapar Yuga already, they would naturally move towards a guru who's not in the physical body. Because to people like us, the physical appearance does not matter so much. We are connecting at a different level. To prepare the mind for so vast an expansion, however, one cannot simply keep an open mind and go along for the ride. Only a spiritual hero can attempt the journey even with the help of the guru who has made it already. The courage required is not the daredevil type which declares while preening itself, just watch me. Of course I can do it. This courage is of a very different type altogether, seeming to require at first, perhaps, a very feminine kind of surrender, which says, I trust you to do it right. Instead, however, there is nothing of either feminine or the masculine in this great leap of faith. The heroism required is the courage implied in the words of a chant by Yogananda. I will drown myself in the infinite to find my true self to be infinite. True faith, it must be understood, is very different from blind belief. So faith comes when, we have certain experiences. It's not a matter of somebody told me and okay, I'll go along with it, must be so, I'll go along with it. Actual faith actually comes from many experiences which people have and which prove time and again that yes, there is something beyond the physical realm. So the artist who paints a line on an almost completed work of art, knowing that the line will either make or hopelessly mar his work, must know what he is doing. His knowledge must be intuitive, not intellectual. This kind of work isn't something that could be done by a committee. Though the artist knows, his only way of showing his knowledge is by doing it. That is the meaning of faith, a sure intuition, an inner complete certainty which no amount of reasoning could either support or demolish. So this is the body of knowing. When it is awake, then you know that there is a God, that there is something much vaster beyond me, and you also know that I am a part of that. What these two stanzas of the Gita teach is the importance of self-preparation for that supreme act of faith. This is where yoga enters the picture. So yoga is teaching us how to move up here to prepare us for that supreme leap, which will merge us with the infinite. To concentrate one's gaze at the point midway between the eyebrows is not so strange a practice as it may seem at first. Whenever one is inspired by a new insight or idea, he lifts his gaze upward as if instinctively. The seat of superconsciousness is in the forehead. That of the subconsciousness is at the back of the head. So this is the positive pole and the negative pole of the Ajna chakra or the third eye. So this is the seat of the ego. This is the seat of superconsciousness. The frontal lobe of the brain, which is located just behind the forehead, is the advanced portion added by human evolution to the brain itself. The foreheads of lower animals slant sharply back, indicating the absence of a frontal lobe. So animals are instinctive. We are intuitive. So the difference between instinct is you are simply reacting from body memory. Yeah, when you follow your instinct. Intuition is not body memory. Intuition is beyond the body. So animals will react. What is this the seat of? It's either fight, flight, or play dead. This is neither or none of that. We are not running, we are not fighting, nor are we getting depressed and playing dead. We are intuiting, there is a knowing. So, yogis in ancient times discovered that the part of the frontal lobe that needs to be particularly stimulated is the portion just behind the point midway between the eyebrows. We saw earlier in these pages that the physical act of breathing is intimately associated with and is indeed caused by the energy rising and descending in the spine through the Ida and Pingala nadis or nerve channels. Ida begins on the left side, Pingala on the right. Breathing in the astral body takes place in these two nadis. The breath in the astral body is in the spine and is composed of energies, not of inhalation and exhalation by the lungs. So what do we do in Hong Sau? We say now go behind the breath and sense the energy moving up and down in the spine. That is doing Hong Sau in the spine. The ascending energy is called prana, the descending apana. One yoga technique I once observed my guru practicing involves alternately closing the right and left nostrils. That is the Alom Vilom, right? Many people do this exercise. So involves alternately closing the right and left nostrils to allow air to pass only through the left, then the right, stimulating the prana and apana in the spine, the ascending energy and the descending energy. Stimulating that flow of energy by deliberately breathing in one nostril at a time is, however, an indirect technique to control those currents with the attention focused on the outward activity of closing and opening the nostrils, directs one's attention more to the breathing aspect of the exercise than to the energy flow in the spine. So when we do this, there's a danger that we get caught up in, is my hand placed right? Am I breathing right? And all that. The point is to go behind the breath and sense the energy. So that's why when we are doing Hong Sau, we say that we give some time for the breathing to slow down so that you don't get distracted by the physical aspect of breathing. We just use the breathing as a pump to start the energy flow in the astral spine. And then we say, go behind the breath and sense the energy rising up and down the spine. So it is already 5 o'clock. Shall we keep till here today? Any questions? No. So we can end with a prayer. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing power in all bodies, minds, and souls. Let's rub our hands together and chant Om 3 times. Om. 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 Shanti, Shanti. So I think everyone is a Kriyaban here. I don't think any Achalamjit is here. So yeah.